What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, Mass Media Hysteria. It is August 15th. This will go up on the channel on the 16th, which is, of course, Monday. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Court. I will be your host for the duration. With me, as always, is Chris.
How's it going, everybody?
And down below, we have Andris.
Howdy.
And we got a few topics to talk about today. We are going to talk about how much money is it going to take for Bond No Time to Die to even turn a profit. It's a lot of money. We are going to do a full spoilers review of the first episode of the new Marvel animated series, What If. I believe this episode was called What If Agent Carter became Captain America or something along those lines. Do you guys want to fact check me on that? Or
what if Agent Carter became Captain Carter?
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Chris is going to peace out for a little bit because Andris and I are going to do a full spoilers review of the new Ryan Reynolds movie Free Guy. Chris hasn't had a chance to see it yet. We don't want to ruin it for him. And then we'll let him know when we're done and he will come back. And then we have a discussion that Andris is bringing to the table. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about there?
Yes, we will be talking about gory effects that make us wince.
Okay. Now, of course, we do want to let you know that if you don't want to watch an hour and a half podcast on YouTube, we do have audio versions of this on places like Spotify, Google Podcasts. So definitely go check that out. Of course, want to encourage you, now that you're on my YouTube channel, to subscribe to the channel. We would love it if you would drop a like on the video. It helps the podcast get out there. It helps the channel grow. We all appreciate that. And of course, anything you guys want to weigh in on any of these topics, jump into the comments. Tell us what you think. I do read all the comments. I respond to them when I can, so don't think your thoughts are going unread. We appreciate all that very much. So we are going to get started. And we are going to talk about Bond. Now, Chris, you brought this up. I believe it was an article from Joe Blow, which I found out recently, I believe is a Canadian site. So that's cool.
Oh, I had no idea.
Okay. So, of course, we know that Bond, No Time to Die, this is Daniel Craig's last outing as Bond. We know it has been pushed back and pushed back. I think it was supposed to come out in the fall of last year.
The original release date was like April 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's been pushed back several times.
And now it's looking like they're planning on putting it out this October. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
And we'll see if that happens. I think that's probably a big question, particularly with what we're talking about here. So, Chris, do you want to start us off with this topic here?
Absolutely. Essentially, the kind of headline grabbing, eye catching thing that I noticed was that No Time to Die, not only is it the most expensive Bond film ever made for a production cost, including inflation, but this movie, No Time to Die, would need to make at least $900 million worldwide before it even breaks even.
Jesus
and that's
Christ.
So hypothetically, even if it makes 900 million, it still would not have turned a profit. It would have been a disappointment. To put that into a larger perspective of how kind of out there and how ridiculous of a number this is, 900 million would be a stretch even in a non-pandemic era. I believe that the only Bond film to make over $1 billion was 2012 Skyfall. Its sequel, which was still a success, Spectre, financially was a success, earned under $900 million. So it's not like Bond is kind of like a Marvel property where, it'll always, crack $1 billion, sweat. That's a lot of money. Again, even outside of a pandemic setting. But to put it into a bit of context for the pandemic setting, the highest grossing film of the year so far is Fast 9, the Fast Saga, the latest Fast and the Furious movie. It grossed $172 million domestically, but only $681 million worldwide. And now that's already becoming out of essentially theatrical run. It's released on like streaming sites and everything now. So the highest grossing movie of the year earned like essentially $200 million less than 900 million. So the highest grossing film of the year did not make that. And that's what Bond has to make. So before we kind of I get into more about like the nitty gritty, what do you guys think about this astronomical number that they have to hit? Do you think it's even remotely possible that Bond would hit 900 million?
Not if they release it in October. I don't think there's any chance in hell that'll happen.
Andres?
Nice mug.
It
That's
is
pretty dope.
refreshing. Yes, thank you. I've never been too into James Bond myself, so I'm not familiar. But I don't know. And yeah, if we're talking during or post pandemic, it's they're setting themselves up for failure, which is that's a problem, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now I did see that. I was reading through the article, and one of the obviously Daniel Craig got a huge paycheck for this movie. I think it was something like $50 million or something like that.
Nice. Good for him.
Hell
But
yeah.
it was an expensive movie to make, but also with the constant pushing back, that led to interest because when you make a movie, it's not studios just going into their mattress to pull out the money.
Mhm.
They borrow money from banks or other
Oh yeah.
other corporations, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And so the longer it gets pushed back, the more and more interest has been accruing.
Mhm.
Add to that the marketing cost that they're going to need to spend to get, if they want to get anywhere close to $900 million.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's absolutely crazy. And I don't see there's any way of them doing it, of them making the money right now. Let me ask you guys this. We're in mid-August now. October is, a month and a half away.
Mhm.
Do you guys think they will push the movie again? Do you think they'll just cut their losses and put it out? Andres, I'll throw it to you first. What do you think? What does your gut tell you?
It's a lose-lose situation at this point, unfortunately. Because yeah, they're not going to make their money back either way. And on the one hand, the sooner you get it out there, the sooner you get your money back. But on the other hand, the longer you hold off, as you said, the interests are increasing. And you have to wonder, with the pandemic still raging on and the possibility of another lockdown, depending on how aggressive these variants occur, we might not even have a theatrical release, and that's on their minds right now. So it's a terrible time to be working on this film.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. But like Andres was saying, it's not something that they want to do. I think that if cases were remaining right now, like steady, I think that they would release it and they would definitely not make them 900 million. So it's a loss regardless. But like you were saying, Andres, like things are increasing. Thankfully, the rates in the country or in North America at least are better than they were in 2020. They're still rising, and we still have variants that could potentially not be protected fully from the vaccine. So it's still a serious issue. And I think we're seeing that in the box office decline already. Like there seemed to be a little bit of hope early on in the summer with Fast 9 and Black Widow opening to 80 million. So it seemed like, oh, theaters are kind of coming back to life. But now it's just kind of slowly decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. And I think it's only going to continue to do that, especially as cases rise. Court, I think that I mentioned, I don't know if it was last week or the other week or the week prior, but I think the real litmus test, and this is just speculation, I think the real litmus test is Shang-Chi that Marvel releases.
Yeah, you
The
did.
reason, yeah, the reason why I say that is because that's not having a streaming premiere as well.
Right.
It's only being released theatrically, and Marvel movies typically do quite well, even if it's like a newer property. So if Shang-Chi comes out and just bombs, then I think that not only does No Time to Die possibly move, but I think a lot of other big studio films are going to be pushed back again. But
Yeah.
it's hard because it's at the same time, if they do delay it again, by the time that it comes out, it may have to make more than 900 million to break even. Like you said, the longer that it waits, the longer that it just sits on the shelf, it's accruing more debt. Films are made on credit, like you said. It's not just money that they have available, it's on borrowed money. And yeah, I just feel bad because I'm a big fan of the Bond series. I really want to see this one. I like the director, Cary Fukunaga. I think he's great. This one looks like it's one of the better ones. I mean, it's hard to fully tell from the trailer, but if they follow the trend of every kind of odd numbered Craig Bond film being good, then this one should be pretty good. But yeah,
Well,
it's a bummer.
and then the other question is, because I mean, I believe the Bond movies are from MGM and I think it's Eon. I'm not sure about,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but like, does MGM even have like a streaming platform that they're connected to if they wanted to do it that way?
MGM, no, but Bond, I think just recently is going to be acquired by Amazon.
Okay.
The issue, though, that I was reading, it wasn't in this article, but I was hearing other people talk about it, essentially is that they're still going to be in the red because whenever that, like, it needs to be cleared in the Supreme Courts and everything because of monopolies and shit. So I think essentially, eventually, moving forward, MGM possibly, but Bond for sure is going to be owned by Amazon. So I think that, they could take a loss like this. Amazon is doing just fine.
Right.
The issue is, when will that kick into effect? It may not kick into effect of like Amazon owning this property and taking on the debt until late into 2022. So it's like, yeah, because you're right. At the moment, there's no streaming sites. There's nothing that it can just kind of be released to kind of lessen the blow.
And wasn't there a story a couple of months ago that Netflix was going after this movie really hard and offered them a lot of money and they said no? Didn't that happen?
Yes. I think a couple streaming sites were trying to give an offer for this one movie that was close to like 600 million,
right?
Which is ridiculous. That's like a crazy amount to offer. But even then, that's 300 million shy. They're even at 600 million, which would be the biggest acquisition for a single film, they would still lose a crazy amount of money, about half of that. It's holy crap, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I really don't know what they're gonna do. If I was the CEO, I don't know what I would do.
No.
That's
all eyes are on Shang-Chi, I swear. Like I said,
Yeah.
not just for Bond, but I think for Dune, I think for the Eternals, the new Spider-Man movie. I think everybody's looking at Shang-Chi, and if that fails, I'm not expecting any more major films for the rest of the year, which is a bummer.
Yeah. It is. Well, on that sad, unfortunate note, let's move on. We're going to talk about the first episode of Marvel's What If. What if Agent Carter became Captain Carter, or Peggy Carter became Captain Carter? I wore my cap shirt because why not? So this is a new series. This is the first episode, and it's kind of almost, for those of you watching, if you know what DC Elseworlds comics are, it's kind of the same thing. It's sort of an offshoot in this case. What if this happened this way instead of this way? Almost kind of like a multiverse type of thing. Before we get into specifics of the plot, Andris, I'm going to throw it to you first. What were your overall thoughts on this first episode?
I didn't hate it.
Your catchphrase.
Yeah, it's my new catchphrase that's developing. Yeah, no, I didn't hate it. It wasn't great. I watched it, so I get to be in the conversation this time, which is great. But that was kind of more so why I wanted to watch it than to watch it because I wanted to watch it.
Chris, what did you think?
Yeah, I felt like with a question of what if going in, like, that's the conceit of the show. The answer for this episode at least turns out to be not much. Like, what if Captain Carter was the first Avenger? I misquoted the original episodes. That's what it's called. That's the title. What if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? The answer is not much. Not really. It's really not that interesting. Like Andris, I didn't hate it. There are some things that I actually quite liked about it, which we'll get into. But overall, so far the show's not my thing. It's just not really. It's the first one of the Marvel shows where I'm just like, this is a miss for me.
I'm with you guys. I thought it had moments that I enjoyed, like you said. I did like the animation. I just found it kind of dull. It's only 30 minutes or so, and I was kind of bored.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest issue is it takes some significant changes, but a lot of the story beats were just a complete retread of Captain America, the First Avenger, just with the characters swapped. So it was just kind of like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about first is the cast. And this didn't bother me. It stood out to me. It didn't bother me. It was cool that they got a lot of the original actors back to voice their characters. I get it. Chris Evans is really expensive, but man, that guy did not sound like Steve Rogers in the slightest to me. And again, I don't care. That doesn't make it a bad episode or whatever, but
yeah,
it's just like, this is the best you could do. I mean, you went out and you got Ross Marquand to play Red Skull. Who do you guys know Ross Marquand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Walking Dead.
Is he on The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's one of the people. Oh, nobody watches it anymore. That's why you didn't know
no.
that.
I stopped at like season 4, man.
I stopped at episode 2.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Just couldn't get into it. Zombies aren't so much my thing.
That's fair.
Okay, so I know Ross Marquand as like an impressionist.
Yeah.
You go on YouTube and check out his impressions. Dude's unreal. He does John C. Reilly. Who does John C. Reilly? He does, and it's freaking perfect. But he's actually, as I'm sure you guys know, he's the guy who played Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame because Hugo Weaving didn't want to come back.
Yes.
Now that is a wicked Hugo Weaving impression. It just reminded me in this episode, like, spot on, Andris.
I will say his performance of Red Skull in What If was better than Endgame.
Okay.
Something in Endgame didn't quite click, but he had the mannerisms in What If down to the point where it's like you could hear the same gravel in his voice. It was very remarkable. So yeah.
If we're talking about cast real quick, I do just want to say that although the guy, his name is Josh Keaton, who played Steve Rogers, didn't sound like Chris Evans, I can agree with that. But his performance didn't bother me. And in fact, everyone I thought was pretty good, except for one major standout to me. And I wonder if you guys felt this too. I like Sebastian Stan as an actor. I think he's a good actor, but it sounds like to me, like he couldn't give less of a fuck in this recording. Like he sounds so bored in all of his line readings. I don't know if that's the case or if he just, nobody really coached him on voice acting, but every line is just like, hey, Peggy, don't do that. Oh my God, we're going to go on a train. Thanks for saving me. And it's like, Sebastian, why even get him if you're just going to like sleepwalk through it?
Yeah, I absolutely felt that. It was like, I think for me, it's like, okay, you've played this character in countless movies and a mini series. It didn't even sound like him to me. Like it just, and I do think to be fair, and I will say one of the bigger problems that I had with this episode was the dialogue. I thought a lot of it was not good.
Yeah.
But he had some of the worst lines, like the giant squid monster comes in and, hey, who ordered the calamari? And I was like,
it was cringeworthy. And I
loved it. But yeah, so I do think part of the problem was he got kind of the lion's share of some of the worst lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It did not work for me. I did like, I really enjoyed the inclusion of Bradley Whitford because I love Bradley Whitford as the general, I think. Of course, Haley Atwell comes back as Linda Carter.
And she did well. I want to say that's why it also highlighted how much I didn't like Sebastian Stan's performance, because I'm sure that Haley Atwell has not done a lot of, voice acting. I haven't checked, but she's probably as new to voice acting as Sebastian Stan, but she was going for it at least. You know what I mean? She had charisma in her voice, or she was at least giving energy. So good for her.
Andris, any cast stand out to you, good or bad?
I was surprised Stanley Tucci was in it. I don't remember him having any lines. Like, it was weird because, they stood out, but at the same time, there were times where I was like, is this? I wanted to, like, look it up on Wikipedia to see who was playing who, but just because, it was weird. It was really weird.
Yeah, it's like to the point where because they did get a sizable return of certain people. Like, they got Stanley Tucci back as Dr. Abraham Erskine, but he only has a couple lines, so it's like, why did you need to get him? Right. They also got Neil McDonough as Dum Dum Dugan. And again, it's like, dude, I mean, I watched the episode and I couldn't tell because he doesn't really have like a recognizable voice. Right. So it's like, no offense to him, but I mean, like, it wasn't necessary, I think, to shell out for these actors again. But whatever. They didn't do a bad job.
Yeah, no, they didn't do a bad job. But I mean, with it following the Captain America film so closely, they may as well just pulled audio out of the movie and used this one,
right?
Because it was so many of the beats were the same. It was like, did we need that person to be back for this?
That's a great point. I think you're so right because of how like strictly it follows the first Avenger. I mean, it deviates slightly in some areas, but it's
Squid
like,
monster.
Yeah, but it's just a bummer that it's like, what happened? What if Peggy Carter was Captain America? Oh, it's the same shit, just
Yeah.
gender swapped. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not interesting.
Yeah, we get an Iron Man suit sooner.
Yeah, but why? It doesn't. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense that like why was what's his name, Howard Stark, able to make it in this, but he wasn't able to do it in the first Avengers? Whatever. I don't
Yeah, and it just felt so what's the word I'm looking for?
stupid.
Necessary?
Those both work. It's not the one. I'm almost there.
So close.
I'm almost there.
It's on the tip of his tongue, folks.
We're gonna have to bleep out this part.
No, it's like anachronistic. It felt very anachronistic in that it just, I don't know. It felt like the technology of that sort of
Time.
yeah, well, the suit, man, I can't talk today. Like the technology of the suit flying around with the like heads up display in World War II.
Yeah.
Listen, I get it. It's a fantasy sci-fi show, but you got to sell me on that a little bit more. Like it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know. Granted, Hydra had a giant machine that opened up a portal to hell. So I guess, but when that showed up, I was just like, what? Okay.
Well, it does go into something I wrote because I have a few things I've written down about this episode.
Okay.
And I'll mention it at this point because it's very succinct, I think is the word. With all shows, writers tend to save ideas that are too weird for normal episodes for when they need an anthology episode.
Okay.
Because they're an episode short in the season. You know what I mean? Like Simpsons did it, Futurama did it. It's like, well, throw in one of those. Making an entire series out of this premise is a really strange move. Because it's like those are throwaway episodes typically, and now they're making an entire show with this idea of, well, here's this. Doesn't matter though. What we're seeing doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's like this like World War II Iron Man suit. It kind of ties into somebody clearly had that in a folder of ideas, and they're like, oh, we could use it in here.
Yeah, for this type of premise, it's, how do I say it? It can be interesting, but the episodes would have to stand on their own.
Yeah.
And in this particular episode, it's only one. It really didn't, like we kept saying or keep saying that it really is just what if Captain Carter was Captain America instead, and that's about it. And that's not really interesting. That's like literally the beginning and end of that sentence. You just picture it in your mind. You got it. You're done. Right. But I am potentially interested in future episodes of this show. Like I saw one that like is like a Marvel Zombies kind of thing, and I know that was big in the comics. Interested to see what they do with that. And a lot of critics that I like listening to or reading the reviews, they got access to the first 3 episodes. And they shared similar sentiments where like, yeah, episode 1 is kind of okay. Episode 2 is kind of meh. But episode 3, everybody seems to have loved episode 3. And they won't say what the plot is. They say it's like a murder mystery. That's all you need to know. And that's where like, I'm like, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued if there's a what if episode, if they really goes like they go for it and it's just completely different, just weird and wild shit that they wouldn't even think about doing for the movies.
Yeah.
Go for broke, because if not, then you just get something kind of lame like this.
Yeah.
Well, and that was kind of my thing. Like, I don't know what the premises are for the rest of the episodes, but why lead with this one? Like your first show out of the gate, why do something that feels like such a retread?
Yeah.
It's so pedestrian.
Yeah. Why not open with something that says like, hey, this is our show. Look how weird this is going to get, or look how out there or whatever.
Yeah.
I found that an odd choice. Not a terrible episode of TV, but
oh no,
just kind of whatever. That's kind of where I sat on. I will say this. He didn't have many lines, just the intro and the outro. I like Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher.
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Wright's voice is great. He essentially, he could read the back of like the shampoo bottle, and I listened to it. Like his voice is awesome. So I agree with that for sure.
I would wince and repeat if he told me to.
So Okay, I'm gonna give a couple more gripes, and then I'll talk about the few things that I did like about this episode. You mentioned a bit ago about the dialogue. I agree that I thought the dialogue was very bad. When there weren't like lines that were kind of pseudo pulled from the first Avengers, it just felt just corny, really corny, and it kind of created this odd juxtaposing tone that didn't work for me because. I know, like in this isn't the case for a lot of the world, but for Western culture, Western society, I think animation just inherently comes across as childish to us.
Yes.
Like it's Western audiences have been conditioned to think that animation is for younger kids.
Right.
So, and a lot of the writing in this seems like it also kind of skews to younger kids. But then there's some things that make it feel like it doesn't. It's trying to have best of both worlds. It's trying to be like seemingly skew younger for younger kids while also still appeasing like the older Marvel fans
and having Nazis.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I don't know who this is for. Like, I don't know what demographic this is for. Because on one hand, you get like just so on the nose dialogue of like Bradley Whitford just being like, "You're a girl,
right?
Girls can't do this." And I'm like, okay, they're writing conflict on a level that a 6-year-old can understand. But then people are getting blown up, and there's Nazis, and I think someone said shit. I could be wrong, but I
said it in German.
Oh, shite.
Oh yeah, okay. yeah.
So, but it's like, so what is it? Are we trying to tell stories to 5-year-olds so that they can understand it? Or are we trying to appeal to actual adults?
Yeah, right. Like is this a Saturday morning cartoon or is this Watchmen?
Yeah.
Right.
Because look, I mean, absolutely there was one line, I forget what the actual line is, but Peggy was talking with Steve and she subtly just kind of brings up the gender inequality, especially of being a woman in 1940s, because that exists.
Sure.
And they did it well there, but the rest of the fucking show didn't handle like that. Again, it was like someone who was explaining sexism to a 5-year-old, where it's like, "You're a girl, you can't do that." "Yes, I can." Like, oh my god,
clumsy. That's what it is. It's handled extremely clumsily, and it just makes it very uncomfortable because you're like, I know you can do nuance. We've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier. Come on, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Chris, did you have other things you wanted to bring up?
Oh, I mean, if we're about to move on, or what?
It's up to you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, just some positives. I am always impressed when it comes to the pacing of animated shows, where they're able to condense so much into such a short amount of time.
Right.
Now, granted, they had the blueprint of the first Avengers, and they followed it to a T. So it's just kind of like copy paste. But at the same time, it's something that I've noticed in a lot of animated shows, that they really just cram so much story and events coherently into like 25 minutes. So that I thought was good. I have a mixed opinion of the animation.
Okay.
I like the art style, and I think that if you were like to pause it and just get like a still frame of a lot of the images, it would look really cool and it would look really great. And I really like the coloring of it. The coloring, I think, was my favorite part.
Okay.
The animation, though, felt stiff and awkward to me. It just kind of felt corny, especially the faces. There was just a weird kind of like pseudo motion capture, but it was cell shaded and animated. So there was a weird uncanny valley-ness for me that I couldn't get into it. So I don't know if anybody felt that too.
What it looked like, because they used animation with very stiff movement like that, it came across like an extra feature from a deluxe edition of a DVD.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like, here's extra stuff where it's like, we didn't go all out on this, but entertain yourself.
Yeah, it's almost like the animatics or something, where it's like, this isn't done being rendered, but you get the gist of what this scene would have been.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I did like the actual design, like the art direction, I guess you would say. It actually reminded me a lot of I don't know if you guys have ever played any of the Telltale video games.
Yes.
I have not.
Yes.
Kind of, it looked a little bit like that, and I don't know how to articulate that. I don't even know exactly what I mean by that or how I mean it. But like, as soon as the show started, I was like, that looks like a Telltale game. So that was cool.
No, I could see that, and I think it works very well in video games. It's just, I guess it's just kind of for this kind of story for this animation, just for like as a TV show, it felt a little awkward. I don't know.
Okay. Now I'm actually wondering. I guess I saw the trailer, but I don't remember. Do you guys think it's going to be the same style of animation in every episode, or do you think it'll change with each episode?
Yeah, based on the trailer, it seems like it's the same style throughout. Because they showed a lot of stuff that was not in this episode. A lot of stuff with like Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. There's like an episode with Thor, stuff like that, the Marvel Zombies, and it all seems to have the same style.
Okay.
Almost a shame.
Yeah, that would have been cool if it was like true anthology, like different styles throughout.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
Like one of my favorite anthology animated. It's weird that I have a specific for this very specific niche, but my favorite animated anthology would be like Animatrix, and all of those were totally different. And it's fun and interesting, and it makes you wonder what the next director is gonna do.
For sure, yeah. No, I agree. Animatrix is rad. If people haven't seen that,
I haven't.
Oh my god!
It's
Go check it out.
It's better than the actual sequels to the Matrix.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Having seen the sequels to the Matrix, I believe that.
I said like it was a hard sell. Like, I don't know if like, buckle up, better than the sequels.
It's not a high bar, but
yeah,
it does pass it.
The closest I've come to seeing it, I was in a bar once years ago, and it was like being shown on a wall, but the sound was off, and I was like, "Well, it looks kind of neat," but
oh yeah, give it a look.
The 3D animation for the one episode, Flight of the Osiris, or the final Flight of the Osiris, looks dated now, but it still works. And the rest of them, have such a wide variety of animation styles. Most of them are 2D that it still absolutely works. So
oh yeah,
okay.
Watch that instead.
All right. So I guess we'll move on. So we're going to talk about Andris and I will be doing a full spoilers review of Free Guy. Before we get into that, before Chris takes off for a little bit, we're going to give some overall spoiler-free thoughts. And I should say, if you want to see a spoiler-free review, there is one up on my channel right now. I'll link to it up there. That's just me. But excuse me. But before we talk about the actual movie, I want to ask Andris, this is the first time since the pandemic began, I believe, that you've been back to the movie theater.
Yes.
So what was that like?
It was very interesting. It wasn't as nerve-wracking as I thought it was going to be. But that being said, it's because there were 10 people in the theater with me and my girlfriend when we went. We went out to the suburbs to see it, and I just figured, well, it's the suburbs. People go to the city for movies. Girlfriend was like, that's what everybody's thinking. But 10 people were in theaters. It was great. I mean, it would have been nice to see it with people, but given everybody's breath as a potential, get you sick situation, it was okay. But yeah, we wore masks. I ate popcorn. Well, it's like lift the mask, eat the popcorn.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've done
like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you have more to say or no?
There's dogs fighting.
Oh shit.
Yeah, little dogs. It's
Oh, hold on, I can hear him.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fun.
That is fun.
I live in a nice neighborhood though. So anyway, yeah, no, it was okay. Theater, I don't know if it's just because I haven't been to the theater in a while, but I felt like the sound was louder than it should have been.
Okay,
like,
so
where's the remote? Because this movie gets loud.
Well, so I kind of thought the same thing in my theater, that they just had it cranked too loud. So maybe it's the sound mix. Because yeah, it was like, I'll say this quick because it's not a spoiler. One thing I said in my spoiler-free review is like, there are moments in this movie where there's like so much coming at you. It feels like a barrage to the senses. You know what I mean? And I think the volume being up that high, or maybe just high in the mix on the actual film, that got to me a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised I didn't come out of the theater with fucking tinnitus.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so before Chris takes off, spoiler-free overall thoughts on the movie. Andris, go.
It was fun. It was a really fun movie. I I don't know if it's a theater going worthy film. It might be something you might want to consider checking out if it's on TV or if it's on your favorite streaming service.
Mhm.
But I'm not saying it you don't like it's not worth seeing in theaters. It's good, but I can understand people not seeing in theaters. It's fun though.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought it was a really wild ride. I don't want to say that's mildly spoilery, but no, it's not. I said it in my spoiler-free review. It's kind of like a mix of Ready Player One and what was the other one? Truman Show. It's got
I can see that.
Particularly the first half has a lot of elements of the Truman Show. Second half has a lot of elements of Ready Player One. And actually turns out that this was co-written by Zach Penn, who wrote Ready Player One, the film. So
he just loves cramming in references to other
things. I guess. Okay, so I think Chris will let you go for now.
Sure. Before I go, I'm still gonna head out, but I just want to know. I'm curious. Is this a movie? Do you guys think that there are things to be surprised about, or there are things to be spoiled about, or is it just kind of like if you see the trailer, it's a fun time, but there's not really like a big thing that is really gonna blow your mind or anything?
I like that we're both doing the same thing at the same time because we're both thinking it over.
I will say this. I mean, it's not like there aren't any really crazy reveals that, like the movie is kind of what the trailer sets it up to be. There were 2 moments, however, in this movie, and it was just musical cues.
Okay.
That made me so fucking happy. I'm glad they were not in the trailer because literally the first one in particular, there were probably like about 30 people in the auditorium where I saw it, and everyone was just like giggling and cheering, and so like there are moments like that where I would not want you to know about it going in.
Okay. All right, cool. No, I was just curious, but yeah. All right, I'm interested in checking it out. Maybe I'll be able to see it for like at a matinee at a local theater. Because the one time I went to the theaters once to see The Green Knight a couple weeks ago, and it kind of put me off from like going to theaters opening night, just because there's no more spacing, and there was just this dude next to me that was talking and just like just coughing, no mask. So I was like, holy shit. But I have a feeling if I go like a matinee and there's like 5 other people there, I'd probably be fine.
Are they not doing like distancing in the theaters?
At least the one I went to, there was no distancing, and it was pretty packed. It was surprisingly packed for The Green Knight.
Yeah.
It's kind of scary that you asked that, because now that I thought back, they weren't like, oh, you can't sit to these. They were just like, here's the theater. Where would you like to sit today?
Wherever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, let me just say quick. In the theater that I go to, which is a Cineplex, when you book your seat online, it automatically blocks off like 5 seats around you, so nobody can get a ticket there, which is great.
Canada.
Yeah,
I would prefer that. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I will say though, if you know any smaller theaters, and go on like a Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Yeah. I think that's the safest bet.
Yeah, but it's good though. Or just, I think they said it's like 45 days before. It's just like a 45-day theatrical run, and then it's gonna hit the streaming. You can wait a month and another 15 days.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and presumably it'll just go straight to Disney Plus because it's a Disney movie, or it's a 20th Century Studios movie. But
before I go though, Court, do you think it's worth a matinee, or do you think it's just a rental?
I think it's worth a matinee. I'm really glad. Okay. I'm really glad I saw it in the theater.
Nice.
It's big. It's spectacle. I thought the visual effects were pretty strong. It's got a wicked opening tracking shot that kind of goes on in a really good way.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and you want the big sound system.
Yeah.
The soundtrack, like the score is really good, but the soundtrack is great too. A lot of great needle drops. Yeah, man. I would say if you feel safe enough doing it, totally.
Dope. All right. Well, I'm interested. All right, guys. Well, I'll let you spoil this bad boy. I'll be back.
We'll let you know.
Sounds good.
All right. So, excuse me. So, the basic premise of this movie is Ryan Reynolds plays Guy, who works in a bank. He's a bank teller. His best friend is Buddy, played by Lil Rel Howery, who is the security guard at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of lives this very simple life. You know, every day he gets up, he goes to work, he gets the same coffee, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, he realizes that he is an NPC, a non-player character in a video game. The video game is called Free City. It's definitely got like a Grand Theft Auto 5 kind of vibe, particularly Grand Theft. Go ahead.
It's GTA Online.
Right.
There's, like I'm pretty sure the only reason they don't say is because they couldn't get the licensing rights to it.
Right. Yeah, it's just you know, when he's walking the streets, it's absolute mayhem. Helicopters are crashing out of the sky and people are murdering people on the street and all that kind of stuff.
The bank is robbed every day.
The bank is robbed every day. And so basically we find out there's a character named, what was her name? It's Millie in the real world. What was her name in the game? Do you remember?
Molotov Girl.
Molotov Girl, thank you.
Well, that was her username.
Yeah. Played by Judy Comer, who I am not familiar with. I know she's on that show Killing Eve. I haven't watched it. I've heard she's fantastic in it. I really liked her in this movie. I thought she did a really good job.
Oh, she's absolutely charming.
Yeah. But also, go ahead.
And also she plays a badass very convincingly at the same time. So there's a duality to her character, which is played very well.
Well, and she kind of, in a way, she's kind of playing two characters because she plays her video game avatar in the game, who is this badass femme fatale with this British accent. And then you see her in the real world and she's like an out-of-work game developer, just kind of chill gamer or whatever. And I thought she did a really good job of having two kind of distinct, not personalities, but like the portrayals were different and they were distinct. And I liked that.
Oh, yeah.
And
it was honestly to the point where I was almost like, wait, are these two different actresses? Actually,
I had the same thought early in the movie. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Because when in the game, she's got short hair and like shades and like a tight blouse and whatever. And then you see her in the real world and she's a beautiful woman, but like they play her as like a little bit frumpy, you know, she's got her hair in a ponytail and she's in like a hoodie and she's got
oversized sweatshirt.
Right. Right. And then eventually I was like, no, that's the same woman. Okay, cool. I thought that was really good, but
absolutely.
So Guy, played by Ryan Reynolds, I guess he's always talking to his buddy, about how he feels like there's a woman out there for him. And then he sees her and he tries to go talk to her. And Buddy's like, you can't talk to her. She's wearing sunglasses. And I guess the conceit is that people in the game who wear sunglasses are actual players. And so they're too cool for school because they're actual players and all NPCs don't wear sunglasses. You can't talk to them. Eventually he talks to her and we find out because she's pulling some shady missions within the game. And we find out that a few years ago, she in real life and her friend Keys, played by Joe Keery from Stranger Things, they had developed this video game called like Real Life or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, it had like an AI element to it. And then the villain of the movie, Antoine, played by Taiko Waititi, who I love.
Hell yeah.
He kind of stole that game and that code and put it into this game. And so now she's coming into the game to try and find the code so she can sue him and get her code back.
Yeah.
So that's kind of her plot. Before we go further into the plot, what did you think of Taika Waititi in this movie?
You ever watch IT Crowd?
No.
Oh. Well, his performance is very reminiscent of a character from an episode of IT Crowd.
Okay.
It was weird because it was Taika Waititi, but it wasn't. It wasn't, you know, he's usually a little bubblier and more fun. I mean, he's an actor, obviously, so he can do that, which is great. But it was interesting because I was like, wait, is that him? But it was.
Yeah, I kind of got on board with him towards the end of the movie, but when they first introduced him, I found him really obnoxious.
Yeah.
I mean, you were supposed to, but like I didn't find it obnoxious in a fun way. I thought some of his dialogue was, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. I don't know if that was stuff he was improvising.
They were just whatever was happening was being tried too hard,
Right.
and that's why it didn't stick. Because it's just I know what you're talking about.
Okay, so basically, then once again, Guy's bank gets robbed, and he, because he went and tried to talk to the woman and whatever. I guess he's feeling a little bit more confident, and he basically stops the robbery and takes the robber's sunglasses, and he puts them on, and automatically now he's got a heads-up display, and he's starting to realize that this world is not what he thought it was.
Yeah. It was I'm actually surprised nobody's mentioning it, but the whole sunglasses thing, it's very John Carpenter's They Live,
Okay.
Or it's like, oh, that's reality. But they didn't play it up too far, obviously, but that's what it made me think of. But yeah, there was a part of me that was kind of like, well, how would an NPC how would that work with the programming though? Would he be able to? But I was like, yeah, no, we're just gonna suspend our disbelief here. Just watch the fun movie.
Well, and it does kind of get explained by the end of the film, sort of, right?
No.
Well, so I mean, just in that, or maybe you could extrapolate that. Whatever, since we're spoiling things anyway.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, we find out that Guy is special within this game because of the AI code that Millie and Keys wrote. So he is like evolving as a character in a way that generally an NPC would not.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe does that answer your question or no? Maybe not.
Not so much, but I mean, I was like, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's so high concept anyway, like whatever.
Exactly. It's like there's no, you can't get that kind of, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
So eventually he teams up with Molotov Girl because he's very attracted to her. It's fair enough. She's very attractive. And he's trying to help her get this piece of code. We get a couple of, I thought, really strong action scenes when they're in their one room where they pull out like the key with the code, and then all of those guards come in and they're fighting with guns and motorcycles, and like some of the motorcycle stuff they were doing was awesome.
Oh yeah, it was insane.
Flying out the window. That was great. I had a lot of fun with that. Then they essentially go on a date, and
they have bubblegum ice cream.
They have bubblegum ice cream. He's like, you got to try this bubblegum ice cream. She's like, oh my God, I love bubblegum ice cream. And he's like, there's swings over there. She's like, oh my God, I love swings. So it's like this ideal perfect date. Let me ask you this. Did you buy the romance in that sequence?
Yeah, well, I can, because online stuff, it can develop over time, and especially because she doesn't know he's an NPC yet. She's like, this guy is really charming, and that's why she was even like, hey, we should meet up in real life,
right?
Because I did buy it. There is the part there you're like, I mean, she should be a little more like guarded, because you don't know anybody. Like, someone's online persona is an idealized version of themselves.
Right.
You can't fall for someone until you meet them and get to know them. But for story's sake, I was like, I kind of knew where they were going with it, and I was like, oh, okay. Oh, that's cute.
It was a really cute little romance. I enjoyed it very much. And they had really good chemistry together, I thought.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So then we move a little bit forward, and she finds out that he is in fact an NPC. Her buddy Keys, who again she wrote the code with, he figures it out. He tells her. Meanwhile, Guy, in the world of this game and gamers around the world, Guy has become this hugely popular character called Blue Shirt Guy.
Blue Shirt Guy.
Yeah, and we even see like really sort of popular YouTubers sort of commentating on it, which I thought was fun.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I'll point this out too. I thought that when and I said this in the spoiler free review, but when we see like people watching people play the game, I thought visually that looked really cool, because it's, you're clearly looking at Ryan Reynolds, but they've rendered it in some kind of way, put it through some kind of filter or whatever. It totally looks like a video game.
Oh, I think they actually just made CG scenes and animated it.
You think?
I think so, because it's
Okay.
it's clunky enough to look like an MMO
Right.
game. Yeah.
And clunky in a good way this time.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, she's found out that he's an NPC. Meanwhile, now we sort of get a ticking clock because Antoine he now knows that she's trying to find this code. So he's going to shut the game down. They're going to kill off Guy. So it's a sort of ticking clock. They got to rush. She's got to go find Guy. They get into a bit of a spat, whatever. Meanwhile, there was one scene, two scenes actually, that like killed me. But there was that one scene where I think she and Guy go to the room where what's his name? Magic Mike.
Oh, Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum has a little cameo.
Yeah.
I love the way he like slid down the circular staircase. I was like, is that Channing Tatum? Okay. I thought that scene was really, really funny. He hooks them up because he's a huge
blue shirt guy
fan.
Yeah.
But then we also get we also juxtapose it to him in the real world, who's this like teenager, this kind of frumpy, chubby teenager. And there were a couple of jokes in there that I was like, in a Disney movie, great, again, 20th Century Studios, but there is literally a moment where he's doing commentary on whatever Twitch or something, and his mom is like vacuuming in the background. He's all yelling at her. But there's a moment where we cut back to Channing Tatum, so we see Channing Tatum actually say the line, and it's something about like, "Mom, don't touch that sock. That's my special sock."
Yeah.
They didn't go right out and say it, but
oh, it's raunchy. It really is. It's a raunchy. It's got some teeth. Yeah.
I was when I say shocked, I don't mean like, oh my, but I mean like, wow, you guys went there. Okay, cool.
Well, it was a Fox production, so they were like, we can get away with some more things, and then we'll throw in some Captain America references later.
Okay, so and that was okay. That's the thing I was referencing earlier. Basically, Antoine Guy is now trying to find. There's a sort of like a location, an in-game location that comes from the original code that Millie and Keys created, but it's behind some kind of wall that like he can't get to. So Keys is like feverishly trying to build a bridge for him to go across because that'll open everything up. And Molotov Girl and Guy sort of rally all the troops of NPCs together to like fight for this world, which was like very much the end of Ready Player One. Are you willing to fight? And all that kind of, it was very much the same idea.
Yeah.
So Guy is trying to get to this bridge. And Antoine, to slow him down, brings in what was his name? Dude, right?
Dude, yeah.
Okay. And they're sort of talking about Dude. And I was like, the way they're talking about him, this is going to be some kind of reveal. Like, it's not going to just be some random actor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And it was. It was Ryan Reynolds' head CGI'd on top of like a bodybuilder. But one of the jokes, one of the conceits about Dude is that like the devs haven't finished creating his character. They haven't finished writing him. So he speaks in like broken sentences that don't make a lot of sense.
His catchphrase, which was great.
That was great. And he's got, like frosted tip, spiky hair, and he's doing this thing. It was delightful. And just watching Ryan Reynolds fight a giant Ryan Reynolds.
A giant dumb Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
They're like, his intelligence is only at 50% right now.
Right.
It was, oh yeah.
But so there's a moment when they're fighting and it's clear that Dude is going to kick the tar out of Guy. But then we see in his heads up display, Guy is going through his inventory and we see he's got a shield and he pulls out a shield.
Yeah.
And they hit the Avengers theme. I was just like, I was so happy. I was giggling. I was like pumping my fist. And then a moment later, or 2 moments later, he gets knocked down. He gets up again. You're never going to keep him down. We see him pull a weapon. We don't see what it is. And then
Yeah.
it's a lightsaber. Star Wars music kicks in. Awesome. Of course, Disney is the parent company that owns Marvel.
All of
They
it.
own Star Wars. So that worked for me. Did you get like a thrill out of that the way I did?
Oh, absolutely. Because it was a nerdgasm on the screen.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my god, it's the thing that I like.
Right.
And there it's happening. It's being used as a plot device.
And
Fantastic.
I almost feel pathetic in that to say that those 2 moments were 2 of my favorite moments of the movie, not like the cool characters that they wrote or the interesting plot or the good joke. It was like the 2 moments that referenced other things I like were my favorite moments in the movie, but they were so well timed. It just worked wonderfully.
And the most important thing about those 2 references, though, is you could tell they were put in with love
Right.
and not to like pander.
Right.
It was just like, here's this, and it's like, oh, you have the licensing rights. Yes.
Yep.
What else you got? But I was happy though. On that note, I was happy they didn't get too crazy with the references and because I mean, Ready Player One, even though obviously that film the book it was based on was built on a reference-rich world. This one could have been Ready Player Two, but it wasn't, and it's good that it didn't because they knew how to control and when to like where to put their foot down and be like, okay, let's
Right. So basically, Guy gets the better of Dude, and he and Buddy go running off to this bridge that Keys is creating. At the same time, in the real world, Antoine is in the server room, literally taking an axe to the servers to try and destroy this game. So the way that's shown within the game is like the city is crumbling. They're running across this bridge. Buddy ends up not making it. And then Guy gets there. In the meantime, in the real world, Millie confronts Antoine in the server room before he completely destroys the game. Tells him, listen, I just want my code. You can do whatever you want with it, but I want bragging rights to say I wrote this because I wrote the first real AI. So they come to an agreement. We jump ahead a little bit, and Millie and Keys, and we didn't even mention Mouser, who's played by Utkarsh Ambedkar, who is another dev who works with Keys. Now the 3 of them are working together on their own thing. She jumps back into, I guess it's the real life game that they developed to go see Guy. And we kind of find out the reason that Guy loves bubblegum ice cream and swings. The reason why they worked so well together is because Guy was written by Keys, who has been kind of secretly in love with Millie this whole time. And he put all of the things he loves about her into Guy as a character. And so she meets up with Guy in the game, and they basically say goodbye. And he says, I'm happy here where I am. I'll miss you. But there's a guy in the real world who, like, everything you like about me is him. So we have this sweet little moment where she realizes that it's Keys, that they're in love, and they have the meet cute on the street. And I liked that they kind of run to each other and then they cut away. They didn't have to do the really saccharine, like, kissing in the rain with the camera spinning around them. He's lifting her up and she's got her legs bent back, they had some restraint there, which I appreciated. And then we get a little epilogue where now Guy is in this new place with his new best friend Dude. They're just walking down the street having a great time. He runs into Buddy, who is back now. They're going to be friends. I don't want to say this too. I just to jump back a little bit further in the plot.
Yes.
Lil Rel Howery, which is a really difficult name to say.
Yes.
He has one of the most heartfelt moments in the entire movie when Guy goes over to his place and says, "We're all NPC characters. We're not real." And Buddy says, "Yeah, but I'm sitting here with my friend. listening to him talk about his problems and, trying to work through them. Like, what could be more real than that? I got a little bit choked up at that line. I thought that was really, really nice. Did that work for you?
Absolutely. It was,
yeah.
It was cute. It was sweet.
All right.
Oh.
And then do you remember exactly how the movie ended? Like, what was the big ending?
The big ending was they found the original thing.
Right.
And,
okay.
The thing is, the movie actually ends kind of sadly without people realizing it. The reason I say this is because this little group of people are, the three of them have gone off to do their own world using that server or whatever. That world is only going to be around as long as that server is in existence. And
True.
They're a small fledgling company. I don't know if you're familiar with Second Life. I was on Second Life for a while. Second Life, it's kind of like this server idea that they had, where it's this open world. There's no rules. Do whatever you want. The problem is people who joined Second Life left after a while, because when you have something that has no purpose, people get bored and leave.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm like, oh, it's kind of sad actually, because this server is doomed. So that's what's sad, but they play it like a happy ending. They didn't say it, and there's always that optimistic, hey, it'll be fine, but these things don't work out. But yeah.
All right. Well, I'm thinking we're about done here, unless there's anything else you want to bring up.
I didn't think it was a good idea to test the waters with this film. I mentioned this. There was a sci-fi article saying that this film was going to be used to test the waters. They have dogs upstairs.
I was going to say, I think someone shot that dog.
But they were going to use this to test the waters for a theatrical run to see if it's profitable to go back to that, or if they're going to continue doing things via streaming. Okay. This was a safer film to do that with. I think it was a bad idea, though.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's almost like they could take the data they get from this if it doesn't do well and say, well, see, theaters don't work. Let's go back to streaming. And I don't like that idea, because it's like, you shouldn't do that if that's what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah, I see your point there. I'm gonna tell Chris to come back while we just sort of summarize our thoughts. So I guess you said earlier on, you could wait for streaming. But you would recommend the movie?
Oh, absolutely. I would absolutely recommend it. My big thing, though, is I'm not a theater-going person in general, so I'm like, I can take it or leave it.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? It's a big recommendation for me. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Again, couple of problems with it. I thought some of the real-world stuff went on a little bit longer than it needed to, and I said all this in my non-spoiler review, but yeah, some of that went on a little bit longer, and again, sometimes there's just so much going on. It can get visually exhausting. It can get sort of sonically exhausting. There were moments where I was like, take it down a notch.
It's not as bad as a Michael Bay film, but it gets close.
Yeah. There are moments where it's just but
yes.
Overall, I had a lot of fun with it. I definitely recommend it. Ryan Reynolds, he's just charming and charismatic and funny, and
I do have one question for you, though, Court.
Okay.
Do you think this role was originally written for Will Ferrell?
I don't, but I could absolutely see it. I mean, that's kind of similar to, what is it, Stranger Than Fiction, right?
Yeah.
Which I've never seen. I've heard it's really good.
So have I, and I've never seen. I got heavy Will Ferrell elf vibes off of his performance. I mean, it wasn't detrimental or negative, but I was like,
interesting. I could see Will Ferrell in this role. It would be a little bit different because he's a little bit older and whatever, but like the romance would probably be a little bit different. But the reason why I say I don't think it was written with Will Ferrell in mind is I'm pretty sure, I don't know this for a fact. Chris, maybe you can fact check this as I ramble. I'm pretty sure that Ryan Reynolds was a producer on this film.
Yeah.
I suspect he was with this kind of from its inception. Okay. I wouldn't even be surprised if he put together the writers. So I would imagine anyway that this was always going to be a Ryan Reynolds vehicle.
Okay.
but I could see Will Ferrell in a similar role to this, with some tweaks to the writing. Yeah.
All right.
Right. So we are going to move on to our final topic of the day, which is our discussion. So, Andres, do you want to pose your question for us?
Absolutely. A good makeup effect can successfully make you squirm in your seat or even lose your lunch. What graphic scene has consistently grossed you out no matter how many times you've seen it? Who
wants to go first?
I can go first.
All right.
So I tried to steer away from kind of like more popular ones or ones that are like more widely known, because it's like I could jump to like, oh, The Fly, but I've seen that movie so many times now that like it doesn't really. Uh-oh, my bad. I could see anybody that chooses The Fly. What a hack! No.
Right? Also, when I put my head down, it really hurt the nerve in my neck.
No, don't do that.
Oh no!
Oh no! I'm sorry. This is just a bad sequence. So the movie that I chose is a 1989 film called Society from Brian Usna.
I know this one.
That's I was afraid you were gonna say this one, Andres. I knew it was up your alley because Brian Usna is like buddies with Stuart Gordon, who made Reanimator.
Have not seen it yet.
Oh, dude, you dig it. Okay, so I won't go into like spoiler. This is kind of spoiler territory, so I'll be as vague as possible. But there's some major gross out. It's a long sequence. It's not just like one effect. It's kind of like the climax of this film. That is very much like David Cronenberg's The Fly or John Carpenter's The Thing, where it's terrific practical effects. And like I said, without spoiling, it's just kind of like this orgy that's like this weird mass of flesh of everyone just kind of like, it's a weird, like people are being connected by like their lips or their hands and stuff, and everything just looks slimy and gross. So it's not even like really gory, and it's just gross. It's just like the human anatomy in ways that you should never see it possible. But it's a hell of a film. It's not maybe not as well put together as say Reanimator, which is a fucking classic, and I love that movie.
Yeah.
But it is really good and has a little bit more on its plate other than just like we're just trying to gross people out. Like as the title kind of suggests, Society. It has a bit of a social criticism to it, so I would highly recommend it. And yeah, I've seen it a few times, and it's just something about that scene. It just creeps me out. Well, not creeps me out, it just grosses me out.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Well, I think it makes sense for me to go next.
All right.
Well, I said The Fly.
What a chump.
Right. You know what? Of course, I'm talking about the 80s remake from David Cronenberg with
not the Vincent Price film.
No.
Oh.
No. But with Jeff Goldblum, of course, and Gina Davis and Stan Getz. I love that movie. Shot in Toronto, by the way. I love that film. The whole thing, just as you watch this man sort of deteriorating into this fly-like creature, it's so deliciously disgusting, and I love it. But the one moment, and I mean, the movie's fucking 30 years old. I'm just gonna spoil it.
Oh my goodness.
The arm wrestling competition.
Oh
yeah.
It is so nasty because he's a fly. He's extra strong. He just snaps this man's arm, and the bone pops out of the elbow. It's so nasty. And every time I see it, I'm just, and I got a pretty strong stomach for gore, but something about that moment is just, it's, ugh.
That's a great specific moment too. It's like, it's little things like that where it like you said, it's just the bone sticking out.
Yeah.
That always gets to me.
Yeah. All right, Andres, bring us home, man.
Give me 1 second. I gotta check something. It is relevant to our conversation.
Okay.
19. Oh,
this little movie from 1982 called The Thing. I don't know if you guys have seen it or heard of it.
Pretty off the radar.
Right? Yeah, it's pretty low. Yeah, pretty obscure.
All right. The reason I wanted to see what year Society came out. All three of our films today are from the 80s.
Hell yeah, baby.
Cool.
I'm bringing it home. It's another one that's pretty well known, obviously. But from the Evil Dead trilogy, the very first film. The moment that always gets me, even though I've seen it like 100,000 times, I've watched clips of this scene, I've watched everything about it, and every time it's the pencil scene.
Yeah.
Where she stabs her in the ankle with the pencil.
Oh, right.
Every time I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And that's what inspired this question, because you're like, oh, and it's not even, it's a low budget film. It's such a quick shot. It's nothing, but just somehow to this day, I'm still just like, nope.
Yeah, I always think that like a lot of the best kind of like body horror moments like that in any film is when it goes a little smaller scale, where it's less like oh, some guy's head exploded. Like that can be gross, but it's like you can't really imagine what that's like to you. But when they pinpoint something, let's say like cutting off a finger, or like you said, just something getting stabbed in your heel, you can like visualize it. You just wince because you're like, oh, I could picture that. Or like you said, Court, like the bone sticking out right here. Like I've seen that happen to people, like kids falling off skateboards and then like bones are sticking out. So it's much more visceral.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Or arm wrestling just gone wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, good question, good discussion. I think that is the show, unless you guys have anything else you want to add.
No.
Okay. All right. So I should mention that we are off next week. I'm taking the lady friend to the cottage. It's gonna be awesome. I haven't been to a cottage in like 15 years. So we will be back the following week, presumably with all three of us. Don't know what we're going to be talking about yet. I say that every week. But yeah, so we, I guess first I should say, Chris, where can people follow you online?
My Instagram handle, which is Art of Light and Shadow. It's a fun kind of cinema blog. I do like a daily film log of everything that I'm watching, but also it's like some fun events that are kind of follower based. Like it's a lot of participation, like people voting on favorite films and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So check it out. Art of Light and Shadow.
Andris, what about you?
If you do a YouTube search for Cheap Thrills Unspeakable Terror, you will find my reviews. I do low budget sci-fi and horror reviews from the dawn of cinema to the modern era.
And of course, you guys are already on my channel, so you know where to find me. Again, if you would love to subscribe, I'd love you forever for it. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Courtshake. I will also mention that right now I am doing coverage for Fantasia Festival out of Montreal. It's a big genre festival, so a lot of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, some comedy, stuff like that. Yesterday I watched a documentary about a small town British amateur theater troupe who all work at a company that does buses, like bus transit, and they're mounting a live production of Alien on stage.
What?
So I'll be having some reviews coming out on the channel for various stuff. If you like genre stuff, check back for all of that. Of course, as we said, if you want to drop a like on this video, we would appreciate that very much. Jump into the comments. Let us know what you think. Did you like Free Guy? Would you put out Bond right now? What would you do? I do read them all. I do try to respond to everything. So yeah, absolutely do that. Again, you can always check out the audio version of our podcast at places like Spotify and Google Podcasts. And we, as we always do at the end of the show, we want to say, we'll see you not next week, but the following week. But in the meantime, we do really hope you guys stay safe and healthy, because we're all in this together. And let's get through it together, shall we? All right, so that's it for us. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Take care and have a good one.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Mass